My name is Celeste. I'm 63 years old. And I've been lying, mostly to myself. I tell people I'm happily married. That Mark and I are comfortable. We vacation twice a year, host dinners, send anniversary cards with too many exclamation points. But behind the curated smiles and perfect posture, I've been slowly vanishing. When we first met, Mark was electric. Confident, attentive, the kind of man who made you feel like the center of gravity. Back then, I used to come alive in his arms, laughing at nothing, touching him just to feel the confirmation of being wanted. But that was years ago. Now, when he kisses me goodbye, his lips barely meet mine. It's muscle memory. And when we cuddle on the couch, if we cuddle, his hand drapes over my waist like a loose belt, no intention behind it. I used to lean into him. Now I lean away, subtly, like my body knows something my mind refuses to say aloud. Last week, he hugged me from behind while I was folding laundry. I froze. Not because it was wrong, but because it felt like a stranger wrapping his arms around me out of obligation. I'd been drifting. Not toward someone else, not yet. But away from myself. From the version of me that used to feel desire, not just perform it. And I think the moment I realized it, really felt it, was during one of those wordless nights, lying in bed beside him. He reached for me. I let him. But inside, I wasn't saying yes. I was just there. And then, not long after, someone else touched me. And everything inside me woke up. Mark's a high school principal. Calm, respected, always in control, especially in public. He solves other people's problems for a living. But at home, he doesn't ask questions he doesn't want difficult answers to. Last night, after the dinner dishes were stacked and the dog was fed, he came up behind me, slipped his arms around my waist, and kissed the back of my neck. He meant well. I know he did. But it felt like a gesture from a script. His script. One he repeats every time he thinks we've gone too many days without touching. I smiled, out of habit, but stepped away to rinse the coffee mugs. He didn't say anything. Just stood there, silent. Later, in bed, he reached for me again. His hand grazed my hip, then slid under the blanket. I gently shifted away, pretending to adjust my pillow. "You okay?" he asked softly. "Just tired," I murmured. He let out a breath, not angry, but wounded. And for a moment, I hated myself. I hated how complicated it felt just to be touched. But the truth is, I don't want his hands. I want his attention. I want him to notice when I'm gone inside myself. To stop trying to love me with his body before he's loved me with his words. I sat on the edge of the bed while he lay back and stared at the ceiling. We were inches apart. A decade of history between us. But I felt lonelier than I'd ever felt in a room with someone I once adored. The silence stretched. And in that moment, I wondered. How long have I been performing closeness? And how long has he been pretending not to notice? This morning, Mark came into the kitchen while I was reaching for the top shelf. Without warning, he smacked my backside and chuckled. "Still got it," he teased, kissing my neck. I laughed, but it wasn't real. It came out brittle, like dry leaves underfoot. He didn't notice. Later, I was folding laundry in our bedroom when he came up behind me again, this time wrapping his arms around me tighter. His breath warmed the side of my face. "I miss you," he said into my hair. I wanted to melt into him. I really did. But all I felt was pressure, the weight of being expected to respond. To turn toward him with soft eyes and parted lips, to fall into that old rhythm like we were still us. "I'm in the middle of something," I said, forcing a smile as I held up a shirt. "You're always in the middle of something, Celeste," he muttered, pulling back. I turned slowly. "And you're always trying to solve things by touching me instead of talking to me." He blinked, surprised. "I thought that's what couples do. Stay close." "Closeness isn't just physical," I said, quieter now. He shook his head and walked out, leaving the door halfway open like he didn't want it to slam, but also didn't care enough to close it. I sat on the bed, the laundry forgotten. I used to ache for his hands. Now, I brace myself when I feel them. It's not that I don't love him. It's that I don't feel understood by him anymore. And somewhere along the way, love without understanding started to feel like being touched by a stranger. Why does everything have to turn into sex? Mark surprised me with dinner reservations, some trendy new place across town. He even ironed a button down, which he rarely does anymore. When I saw him waiting by the door with my coat in hand, for a second, I felt hope stir. Maybe this was his way of trying. Maybe I could meet him halfway. We sat across from each other at a small table, dim lighting flickering over half-finished wine glasses. He smiled at me, the old Mark smile, the one that used to undo me, and reached across the table to squeeze my hand. "I've missed this," he said, giving my fingers a quick stroke. I nodded. I wanted to say it back. But the words caught in my throat. He leaned in. "You've been somewhere else lately." "I've just been thinking," I said. "About?" I hesitated. The waiter came to clear plates, and for a moment, I thought maybe I could dodge it. But then Mark put his hand on my knee under the table. Familiar. Predictable. "Let's go home," he whispered. "We can reconnect." That's when I cracked. "Reconnect?" I snapped, louder than I meant to. "Is that all this was? A warm-up act for you to get laid?" Mark blinked. "What?" "No, Celeste, I just wanted." "Wanted what?" "For me to finally relax enough to let you touch me like you always do, even though I'm not even there anymore?" People turned to look. I could feel the flush creeping up my neck. "I'm trying," he said, voice low and tight. "God, I'm trying." "By pretending we're still the same people we were 10 years ago?" I whispered. His jaw clenched. He said nothing. We drove home in silence. He went straight to bed. I sat in the kitchen, crying quietly into my own hands. Not because I didn't love him, but because I couldn't keep performing a desire that wasn't there. The worst part? The night after that, someone else touched me. And I tried to stop him. But my moans told the truth. 2 weeks have passed since that night. Mark and I still move around the house like shadows of ourselves. The only words we exchange are logistical, bills, groceries, the dog's vet appointment. The rest is silence. I watch him sometimes, when he's not looking. Sitting on the couch with a book he's not really reading, his thumb frozen on the same page. Or standing at the kitchen sink a beat too long, like he forgot what he came in for. He's hurting. I can see that now. And not because I yelled at him, but because I've been gone for a long time, and he's only just realized it. But I miss him. I miss the version of us that used to lie in bed talking about nothing until we fell asleep. I miss how safe I used to feel in his arms. I miss the man who looked at me like I was still unfolding. And yet, I can't bring myself to reach for him. Because now, every time he touches me, I flinch. Not outwardly, but inside, where it counts. Where trust used to live. There's guilt. Shame. A sense of betrayal, not just toward him, but toward the vows I said, the life we built. But something inside me keeps whispering. You were disappearing. And nobody noticed. Tonight, I stood in the hallway, watching him through the half-open bedroom door. He was curled on his side, breathing soft and shallow. And for a moment, I wondered. Should I try again? Or is it finally time to let go of something that no longer recognizes me? I waited until the house was completely still before stepping into the bedroom. Mark was lying on top of the covers, one arm across his chest, still in his work clothes. The bedside lamp was on, barely, casting a weak, amber halo over the space between us. I sat on the edge of the bed, not facing him. Just listening to his breath. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. He didn't answer, but I felt his body shift. He was awake. I know I've been somewhere else. I don't even know how long it's been. But I think it started when I stopped feeling like myself around you. He exhaled slowly. Still no words. I turned slightly, enough to see the side of his face. He looked older than I remembered. Not just in years, but in spirit. In disappointment. In the quiet ache of realizing something he thought was solid had been slowly eroding beneath him. I've been holding so much in, I whispered. Pretending. Trying to be present when I already left. You didn't do anything wrong, Mark. But you didn't ask either. You didn't notice. He turned to face me, finally. His eyes were glassy. I noticed. I just didn't want to believe it. And there it was, the truth that neither of us had said out loud. The one that had been pulsing between every kiss, every silence, every almost. I leaned in and kissed his forehead. It was gentle. Familiar. And heartbreakingly final. He reached for my hand but didn't hold it. Just placed his palm over mine, like a quiet goodbye. I still love you, he said. I know, I replied. But sometimes, love doesn't make us whole. Sometimes it just holds the space where we used to be. He nodded once, and I left the room. That night, he slept on the bed. I slept on the couch. Not out of anger. But because something had broken, and neither of us knew how to fix it anymore. If you had told me 10 years ago that I would one day feel lonely inside my own marriage, I would have laughed. Not because it was impossible, but because back then, we were solid. Intimate. Real. But that's the thing about slow unraveling, you don't notice it until the threads are already around your feet. Mark loved me. I know that. I never questioned it. But love without awareness? Love without curiosity? It starts to feel like being watched through a window instead of being held in someone's arms. What I learned, painfully, is that desire dies in silence. It doesn't need drama or betrayal. It just needs neglect. The sex stopped feeling like connection and started to feel like obligation. The conversations got shorter. The smiles more polite. And I kept pretending I was still there. Still present. Still wanting. Until someone else touched me. And everything inside me, everything I'd been pushing down, surged to the surface. I tried to stop him. I did. But my moans told the truth. They weren't about him, they were about me. Waking up. Cracking open. Remembering that I still have a body, a heart, a voice. I wish it hadn't happened that way. I wish I had spoken up sooner. But I don't regret that moment. Because it forced me to look at my life and ask. Am I still choosing this? Or am I just surviving it? Mark didn't beg me to stay. He didn't try to punish me, either. We just let go. Quietly. Tenderly. Honestly. And maybe that's what healing really looks like sometimes. Not fixing something, but finally telling the truth inside of it. So, if you're listening to this, still holding your breath inside a love that doesn't see you, ask yourself. Are you being touched, or just tolerated? And if your body's already answered? Believe her. She remembers who you are.